So I'm Paul Bover. I'm a director of product management. I should probably have started with that. I just tend to jump right in. I lead product for Magento Go and also merchant experience. So the panelists that we have today, the first person to my right here is Eric Yong. He's CEO of EY Studios. His company is a mission to create branding experiences that are very emotional and powerful, and I think you'll get that from his presentation. He's worked with large companies and startups alike. These aren't the startups: Amazon, NASA, Bed Bath & Beyond, Eureka Vacuums, and a host of others in the internet retailer top 500, which is a nice segue into our other panelist, Don Davis, who is editor-in-chief of Internet Retailer. He is the editor-in-chief for Internet Retailer, our news link daily, and also internetretailer.com. How many people attend the IRCE show? All right, that's a good number. Yeah, that's a great show. Always enjoy going to that. So we're going to kick things off with Eric, who's going to talk about branding, and then we're going to have some questions for Don, and then we most definitely want to open it up to everybody in the audience. We have two mics that are kind of located not so conveniently. Maybe we'll take some shouts from people in the middle and I can relay the questions. But if you have a question, you might want to migrate closer to those mics, or maybe we'll bring in the mics a little bit closer to the people on the flanks. I should have put up your pictures, guys. That would have been much better. See, I'm trailing at least one slide behind, and I'm going to attribute that to the Vegas effect. So let's get started now, and please help me welcome Eric Yong from EY Studios.
All right. Good afternoon. Paul, thanks for that introduction. I want to thank Magento for inviting me for this, and I've been very excited to be here. Don, it's been good to meet you this week. I'm excited to hear from you in just a bit. I want to start off with a simple question. Why are you in business? Why are you in business? Pretty simple question, and for most people, they have a pretty simple answer. Why am I in business? To make money. But for others, the answer may be a little bit more complex. Now, the title for this session is called Brands to Beat, Brand Building in an Omni-Channel World. And over the next 25 minutes, I'm going to be talking about brand principles such as differentiation, why that's so key to your brand strategy. We're going to be talking about how to leverage your brand equity across multiple channels. And lastly, we're going to be talking about authenticity and why that is so key to what you do with your brand. Sound like a good, fun 30 minutes? Yeah? You guys into this? Woo! All right, listen, I'm ready to have fun. It's the last session. Paul told me to bring the heat. Is that okay? All right. So, I think that I've spent 2 days with you guys, and I think that this is a pretty savvy crowd. I think most people are pretty familiar with brand principles, okay? But even with that said, there's a lot of different brand definitions floating out there. You hear a lot about developing the voice of your brand. That's very important. You hear about graphic branding, service branding. All of those are very important. But what I want you to understand is that branding is not one thing or another, is it? Branding is everything about your company that differentiates itself in the hearts of customers. Now, to me, the key word there is hearts. I believe those of us in e-commerce need to put more of our heart back into what we do. Listen, there's no shortage of strategic thinkers here. There's a lot of strategic thinkers. Raise your hand if you believe you're a strategic thinker. Yeah? Come on now, don't be modest. All right, so a lot of strategic thinkers in this room, and that's all well and good. We need strategy, but let me tell you something. We also need heart. Would you agree with that? Because strategy without heart is going to leave the customer cold. And so we've got to appeal to their hearts because, listen, buying is emotional. Buying is not a strategic process. Buying is an emotional process. In order to appeal to somebody's emotions, to their heart, you've got to put more of your heart into this. Now, we're not going to sing Kumbaya, don't worry. All right? But we got to put the heart into that. Now, omni-channel, lots of definitions related around that. But I believe omni-channel is a seamless approach to customer experience through multi-channel retail. Now, what's the key word into that? Tell me. Come on, starts with an E. Experience. Yeah, good. Experience. Listen, it's not just about your products. It's not just about your strategy. It's the experience that wraps around your products. All right, so now we've covered that. We have to understand that we cannot control our customers. It'd be nice, right? But what we hope for is to influence our customers. And, we're having a strategic discussion about omni-channel strategy and all this. But customers don't care about channels. That's not in their common vernacular. What they care about is, how is a brand going to touch my life? What's this going to do for me? We'll talk about that more in a bit. So if you combine those first 2 points, you get that you have to leverage your brand influence at every single customer touch point. And to me, a present example of this is what Magento has done with this hotel, right? When I drove up, I saw the animated logo. I walked in, I saw the Magento logo all over the doors. How many of y'all ate the Magento Rice Krispie treats yesterday? Huh? Can you imagine that pitch? Man, we have got to brand these Rice Krispie treats, right? That's very important. We don't want to lose that opportunity. All right, but this is not just flash in the pan. This is not about creating buzz with your customers, right? We're about long-term success. How many of y'all are in it to win it long-term, right? Listen, I am. And it's not about doing business with everybody. My dad taught me when I was young. He said, Eric, you can't do business with everybody. You got to do business with the right people, the people that want to do business with you. Now, another way to put that is that everybody's not going to love your brand. Somebody says, what? How could they not, right? But everybody's not going to love it, and that's okay. You're trying to appeal to those that are going to love your brand. I'm going to walk over here for a second. Don't worry, this crowd, I'll give you some love in just a second. All right, how many of y'all are familiar with Betsy Johnson? Okay, more than I thought. I was not until about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I have some designers working with me. They get kind of funky, and they were telling me about Betsy Johnson. We looked at a lot of apparel examples this week, right? So, Betsy Johnson, anybody want to guess her age? 70. 70 years old. She's going like this, right? And look at the kind of clothes, though, that she's making. This funky, young, rock star, hip, appeals to the kind of gals that work for my firm, right? They were, oh, Betsy Johnson, But at the end of her runway show, she comes out and does the splits. When was the last time you saw a 70-year-old lady do the splits? Paul, I love the runway show last night. The only thing that would have made that better is Roy Rubin coming out there and doing the splits at the end of the show, right?
We'll work on that.
That'll boost attendance next year if you do that, all right? But pay attention to the crowd here. Look at this. So look at this guy. Right? He's like, why did I pick this seat and be behind this lady, right? I hope not my wife doesn't see me here, right? But look at this other lady over here. She's like, this is great. Oh, I love Betsy Johnson, right? Look at the contrast between that guy and this lady. But look at Betsy Johnson. What's she going? I don't care. Look at her. Look at her. Who is she appealing to? Say it. The lady, right? She doesn't care about this guy. She's appealing to the woman that's into her brand. She's not trying to dilute what she does. Now, as you start thinking about differentiation, listen, I realize, I'm a brand strategist, but I realize first and foremost, when you start talking about brand strategy, omni-channel strategy, you can get in the weeds pretty quickly on this stuff. So I'm going to simplify this. Is that okay? I'm not talking down to you, but I'm going to simplify this, all right? So I want you to start thinking about your brand as a car. You with me so far? All right, your brand is your car, and your brand's got to drive on something. And it's got to drive on the channel. So your channel is a highway. And because there's multiple channels, we have a superhighway system. Are you with me so far? So because there's a superhighway system and your customers are located all across this highway system, you need more than one car, right? So you need a fleet of cars going out to intercept your customers wherever they may be on the channel superhighway. Now this picture, I'm from Mississippi. Anybody from the South here? What? 3 people, all right. Oh, there's somebody, okay, we got some Southern folks. Where are you guys from? All right, I'm a Georgia guy, all right. So I used to see scenes like this. I'm from Mississippi. We were sophisticated enough, Paul. We would remove our roadkill. We would not just paint over the roadkill. So we were sophisticated enough to do that. But listen, if you're not driving, you're the one being driven upon. And one way to escape that fate is to differentiate. If somebody says, why? Why do I have to differentiate in my omni-channel strategy? Well, think about it this way. What if your competitors are on every single channel that you're on? Raise your hand if that's the case. Someone's like, yeah, I don't want them to know. All right. But if they're on every single channel and you don't have a differentiation strategy, your competitors are going to eat your lunch or turn you into possum meat, whatever you eat, okay? Now, with that car analogy, okay, I grew up in Starkville, Mississippi, and I moved to Atlanta, Georgia. Now, the traffic is a little bit worse in Atlanta than Starkville, Mississippi. You don't see many possums in Atlanta. But in Atlanta, the traffic's crazy, cars are zipping past you, you have road rage. How many of you can relate? Some of you live in big cities. But when you see an awesome car drive up, do you not stop and go, look at that, right? Who's driving that? You stop to admire the car. Well, listen, you've got to do the same thing with your brand. Think about how many marketing messages that your customers are inundated with on a daily basis, just zipping past them left and right. And if you're not investing into the aesthetics of your brand, you're not sticking out from all the other cars traveling past them, you've lost it before you begin. So invest in that. Make that aesthetic beautiful for your customer. Now, it's not just about you going out joyriding in your car. You want your customer to get in your car, right? You want to give them a ride to remember. And the only way a customer is going to get in your car is what? If they think that you're going to drive them somewhere they want to go, right? So it's got to meet their needs. Thirdly, arm the alarm. What do I mean by that? Well, if you're doing your job right, you've got a sexy, nice car, customers are getting in your car, going places with you, you think your competitors are not going to notice that? They're going to want to do what? They're going to rip you off. So how do you not do that? I mean, how do you create that barrier to entry? How do you arm the alarm? Sorry, speaker guy. All right. You've got to put more of your unique self, more of your unique company culture into your branding. You can't copy what's unique. You can try, but you'll fail. So I want you, anybody got your pieces of paper? Get these out. Start thinking about what the key attributes of your brand are. In other words, what's the secret ingredients of your brand? Now, another way to think about this is what are you into? What are you not into? In other words, what are your values? And you got to look beyond quality and service. Anybody seen the movie Elf? He goes up, he sees world's best coffee. Congratulations, world's best coffee. Right? Listen, your customers look past that kind of marketing spiel. Everybody says, we've got the best quality, the best service. Right? You've got to go beyond that. What is specific to your brand? Your competitors are not going to say, yeah, our quality is kind of shoddy and our service is kind of sketchy. Everybody's going to say we're the best, right? So go further than that. Challenge yourself to put that out to your customers to go further. But it's not enough to just say, these are our values, what our company's into, is what our company's not into, and not have it align with your customers. In other words, you've got to find out what the values of your customers are and make sure that your values overlap. If not, you're creating a disconnect. Now, speaking personally, I'm going to tell you the company. There's a company I've spent a lot of money with whose values have shifted over the past 2 or 3 years, and I really don't feel like spending as much money with them because they don't reflect who I am and what I value, right? And that's okay. Remember, we're not trying to appeal to everybody. We're trying to appeal to the customers that want to do business with us. Answer, you got to put a cat meme, right? You got to answer the customer's number one question. What's this got to do with numero uno? What's this got to do with me? If your store is not answering that question in any channel that you put it out there on, you've got a problem. What's this got to do with me? And keep it simple. Now let's look at some live examples. How many of you should get Under Armour? You love Under Armour? All right, I took this screen grab last week. What's your name? Bill? You wear superhero stuff, Bill? Okay, maybe your kid, you got kids? They're all into that though, right? All right. Transform yourself. Where's Don Cole? Don, my friend Don's got triplets. I don't know if this is like identical quadruplets or just like a kid photoshopped 4 times. I don't know, but look at the kids on the right and left. They're obnoxious, and the 2 in the middle are kind of chill, right? They got the Ritalin or something. I don't know. But you see, you've got transform yourself, and I love that marketing message. 2 words, call to action, kind of a wink to the superhero mythology, transforming into your alter ego. You get it. It's simple. Right? Now, I cropped this pretty short here. I wish I didn't. But if you go just beyond this, you see smaller pictures beyond this rotator here that are telling a visual story about what Under Armour is all about. Right? Tell a visual story on your channel. Summarize what you sell so people can get it visually. Is that making sense? Put that story out there in a visual manner. And it's simple. Now contrast this to Macy's. I saw this last week and took a screen grab. Now what's the visual story on display? You see some earrings on the right. You see way up here some type of in-store card. Down here you see some kind of beauty kit, right? But in the rest is text, right? Does this engage you as much as the Under Armour? Be honest. Right? Leaves you kind of cold? Leaves you kind of cold. Let me see hands. Okay, you with me? So think of if this homepage had come alive, this is what it'd say. Free shipping every day in the Spring Spectacular. There's lowest prices on the season. Oh my gosh, there's 12 different links here of more ways that you can save. And I know it's kind of hard to read with white links on blue text. But you know, you can enjoy our lowest prices of the season and 65% on this ring. And if you still can't afford it, there's great financing offers. And if you don't like anything else on this site, you can always get it in the store. And the customer is going, what the hell? Right? What is going on here? You seeing that? Is that, you know, where's the visual story? Contrast that to the Under Armour. Now, we've talked about the car. We have the analogy of the car as a brand. Now let's talk about brand equity and driving it. So there's tons of options. So you're sitting here in your car. You're driving down the lane in your original channel. Now, how many of you started off in e-commerce? Raise your hand. Okay, just a few? Started off in brick and mortar, raise your hand. What's your name? Adam? Yeah. You started online, right? Yeah. Okay, what channels have you expanded into?
Traditional B2B and PO.
Okay, who started, I want to see a hand, brick and mortar, show me. What's your name? Adam, what's your store? Right, so the brick and mortar, that was your original channel, is that right? Okay, you distribute, right? But now you've gone online since you started from that? Okay, but you've got to protect that original channel, right? That's what brought you your business. So you can't expand to another channel and ignore that first channel that got you there, right? You've got to protect that. But don't protect it too hard, as you'll see in another example. Next, keep your roadmap close by. You got to know where you're going and when you're trying to get there. When considering a channel, ask these questions. What's the reason for embracing this channel? Why are we doing this in the first place? Next, is it going to protect, enhance your brand? And thirdly, is it going to allow your brand to translate key attributes? Now, earlier we talked about trying to define what those key attributes were, right? Well, if you choose a channel that dilutes those attributes, you've chosen the wrong channel. So only choose channels that allow your special sauce to come through. Otherwise, your channel is hurting you versus helping. How many of you were border shoppers? Raise your hand. Okay, keep your hand raised. How many of y'all missed Borders? Okay, most of the hands went down. All right, so Borders, I hate to speak ill of the dead, but it's a fascinating brand story to me. So Borders, their original channel was brick and mortar. So what they did is they kept opening up more and more brick and mortar, signing 15 to 20-year leases. Ouch. So if the store failed, they were in trouble. And this is what customers were saying. They were like, you know, I see all these CDs and DVDs. I don't see any digital stuff. You know, I'm seeing Seattle's Best for coffee. We're Starbucks. Starbucks owns Seattle's Best. And third, there was dirty bathrooms. They were saying this kind of stuff. And the prices were really high. So all the while that Borders was going on and on, opening up these stores, they were ignoring what the customers were saying about them. Now, here's the timeline. Let's zip through this real quick. In 2001 to 2008, Borders outsourced all of their e-commerce to Amazon. Did you know that? All of their e-commerce activity was outsourced to Amazon. Think about the formative aspects of e-commerce between those years that they missed out on. Next, see what this did to them? They hurt their e-book development. How many of you own an e-book? Kindle, okay? Lots of people, all right? iPad, they couldn't get on the game. That destroyed their online presence. All the while, there's a digital revolution going on. People were into iTunes, Netflix. Borders couldn't participate. In 2008, they got their store back. They did a massive redesign. In 2010, they launched the Kobo. Kobo was their e-book reader. I think they sold about 24 of those. In 2011, they filed for bankruptcy. So too little, too late, they failed to adapt to the market. Now, a lot of people say, well, that's just what's going on in the book market, Eric. And I disagree. I think you have to adapt to your surroundings. Whatever's coming your way, whatever channels that you're engaging with, your brand has got to adapt. Otherwise, you're the next Borders. Now, I'm going to contrast this to Burberry real quick. There's 5 aspects of their brand. They posted this online. But this, okay, Borders is a 40-year-old brand. Burberry, how many are familiar with Burberry? 157-year-old brand. So surely they're doing something right. The first aspect is leveraging the franchise. They launched Burberry.com. They call it Burberry World. It's an awesome website. You guys need to go check that out. It's a multimedia, fantastic experience. They're big in Facebook and Twitter, but they launched their own social media site. It's called artofthetrench.com. Paul, you're a big trench coat guy, right? All right, you got one trench coat. So, let's say Paul gets his trench coat, his Burberry trench coat. He can go on artofthetrench.com, sporting his trench coat. People can vote on Paul, see if they like it or not, share it with their friends. They innovated that. They created their own channel to explore that. Next, they intensified non-apparel development. So they had their trench coats, their outfits, but they expanded it out into accessories like watches and whatnot. Third, they accelerated the retail-led growth excellence. They shifted from wholesale to retail. They invested in underpenetrated markets like China. And lastly, this is important, they pursued operational excellence. In their brand strategy, they put operational excellence, in other words, holding their executives' feet to the fire, as a key pillar of their brand strategy. Why? Because if you don't have leadership that is strong, your brand strategy will fold. The center cannot hold. So the executives are held to a standard, and you guys have got to hold your top guys. If you are the top guy or gal, hold yourself to a rigid standard, because your brand will fall apart if not. You've got to be a proper leader with your brand. What else are they doing right? They hired young people. They came in, revolutionized their social media. They embraced a visual makeover, and they got rid of tradition. The tradition is great, but it can only get you so far. You've got to reinvigorate your brand by embracing the new. Keep the old, embrace those older customers that are still with you, but don't be afraid of change that will embrace newer customers. I'm going to quickly go through authenticity, so we're running out of time, but authenticity is the premium fuel of your omni-channel strategy. You got to have a car, you got to have a channel, but you got to have gas to run on the channel. And authenticity is so important because customers want to know who they're dealing with. They want to know who's doing business with them and what they're all about. So, and if you got a notepad there, write what adjectives do you want your customers to say about your brand. Somebody call it out. What do you want customers to say about your brand? Somebody call it out. Bold. Bold, all right. Somebody else. Unique. Innovative, that's what I was looking for. Bold, unique, innovative. One more. Fun. Fun? All right, what's your name? Rich. Rich, you better be the fun guy. You better be the funnest guy that anybody ever knows. Look at your shirt. I believe you're the fun guy, man. Stand up, do a model, do a turnaround there. Look, oh man, give him a round of applause. That's the fun guy. Listen, as you look at these CEOs, they're emblematic of what their brand represents. They've got to be what their brand represents. That's authenticity. And it has to move beyond your execs. You've got to have this invade your entire culture, down to the receptionist. Everybody's got to be involved with this. Otherwise, it won't hold. Love what you're into. It drives me crazy when I talk to clients that don't love their product, that don't even really love their customers. You better love your product. What's your name? Yes. Amy, you got a store, Amy?
We have an online store.
Okay, what do you sell?
Printing, online
Do you love printing? You better love printing, because your customers are going to see through it if you don't. And you got to tell your story. Tell your story. Amy, is that your name? Yes. Tell your story about why you love printing, because people want to see this, and your website's the place to do it. I love this quote. I'm closing up. Shaheen Sidi said, "Authenticity is big, and you can't buy it. You got to earn it." Huh? You got 5 minutes. All right. Authenticity is big, and you can't buy it. You have to earn it with your customers. You've got to be the real deal, and they've got to see you doing it. speak the lingo they speak. How many of you are familiar with ThinkGeek? Okay. Geek culture, man. The name of their blog is Blah. That's the name of their blog. They don't care what people say. Well, that's not a very nice name. It's Blur, and they're owning it because that's their culture. That's what their customers are into. I love this example from J.Crew. They've got their example here named Gail. Gail is their designer, and she's trying out her recommendations, what she's into, and customers eat that up because they love Gail. They see that she's the authority on J.Crew, and they want to know what's going to look good on them, and Gail is going to tell it to them. Here's a quick summary, but I'm going to close from here. Thank you guys for your attention. I appreciate it. Yeah.
So I think I have to ask you to go over to that side of the room and do the splits because you said you were going to give them some love, and then
I could do a kit,
I'm not
yeah.
sure you did it. All right. So thank you, Eric, for that. Now I want to ask a question to Don before we start throwing it out to the audience in general with questions. Don, I think you're in the perfect position at Internet Retailer. You obviously meet with hundreds of merchants through the shows, through interviews. What are the trends that you see with brand? Kind of where do these merchants need to look ahead when they're looking ahead and thinking about brand?
Well, taking off from Eric's analogy, the traffic is getting worse. There's a lot more competition. Those of you who are merchants and those of you who help merchants sell online probably know this, but the bad news is that it's going to get even worse than it is now. The competition is getting stiffer. You all know how Amazon's been growing, 30, 40% a year growth in revenue. They don't report gross merchandise value, which is actually the value of what's sold on Amazon, but if you do the math, it's actually growing faster than that. So maybe some of you enjoying some of that sales on Amazon, but many of you also are competing either online or in your bricks and mortar stores. eBay has really rebounded in the last 5 years. Last year grew 16% gross merchandise value in the U.S., 19% the fourth quarter, which is above the market. It's great news for eBay and those for you selling on eBay, but also means that this is another huge marketplace where it's really improved the consumer experience, and more shoppers are going back there and looking for stuff on Amazon, on eBay. Some of you probably have heard the name Buy.com, which used to be a consumer electronics retailer, opened up its site to other retailers as a marketplace. It was bought by Rakuten, which is the biggest, the eBay of Japan, and now is being converted entirely into a marketplace called Rakuten Shopping. So they've got a very deep-pocketed parent company that has invested not just in the U.S. but in France and Britain, and is going to really be pushing to get more merchants onto their marketplace and to investing more in paid per-click advertising so that the competition of the keywords doesn't get tougher. Then you got Walmart, which has really made a big push online and is really stepping it up now. Right now they've got nearly 2 million SKUs online, of which 1.5 million actually come from the 6 other retailers that they've let sell on Walmart.com. Well, they're about to ramp that up in a big way and invite more merchants in. They plan to have 4 million SKUs online by the end of this year and tens of millions in the next couple of years. So another big. So if all you're competing on is price, selection, and even convenience, you can pretty much forget it. It's just not going to be working for you very, very much longer. Many of you know that, and then that just sort of reinforces the point that Eric was making: is that customers have got to feel like you are fun, or you are bold, or it's like, I just love Apple. I mean, everybody loves Apple, right? They got a great brand. Well, not everybody can be Apple, but so I want to talk a little bit about some things that small and mid-sized merchants realistically can do that can begin to differentiate themselves. I know there's some folks here this week from Tatsi, which is an online retailer of baby products, and kind of startup, didn't have a huge budget, and so what they did was they're selling to moms. And moms think their babies are beautiful. So they did a contest each week, who's the most beautiful baby? And they would invite their customers to upload photos of your baby to their Facebook page and to encourage your friends to vote for little Samantha or little Jason or whatever. So of course, mom uploads the photo of Jason, emails 20 of her friends to go to Totsy's Facebook page. They get introduced to Totsy. Each week they gave, I think it was a $100 gift certificate to Totsy.com for the one who got the most votes. For $100 a week, they were exposing their brand to, I'm sure hundreds, probably thousands of moms every week. I mean, it's just this, just smart marketing. We heard this week about Fab.com, another startup that really used social media very aggressively to build its brand. I recently heard a presentation from an executive from Express, which is a retail chain that sells to 20-something people who are, basically kind of young urban professionals who want to have the latest clothing. And one of the things they realized is that they used to send their marketing emails around midday, but now they realize that their customers, the first thing they do in the morning is they reach for their cell phone, and if they still check email, that's when they check their email. So now they send their email at 7 in the morning, because that's when they have a chance to reach their customers. Mm-hmm. So it's like, that wouldn't work for me, mm-hmm. but I ain't their customer. Walmart did something very interesting on Black Friday that any brick and mortar retailer could do. They had a special on 3 hot products, an iPad, a flat screen TV, a Blu-ray player, really low prices. And they said, we're going to give you a 1-hour guarantee. Here's the prices. If you come into our store between 10 and 11 or whatever the time was, this 1 hour, we guarantee you'll get this product at this price. So you walk into a store, and they would have a certain number, and then they'd sell out, and they'd say, sorry, Paul, but here's a voucher. Go to walmart.com. Mm-hmm. You can buy this at this price, and we'll send it, we'll ship it to you for free. So they introduced, tens of thousands of people in one day who'd never been to walmart.com to walmart.com. And any retailer could do this. So this is just some of the examples. I mean, but you got to be thinking about this because, not only are you competing against companies like Amazon, eBay, and Sears, and Macy's, and so forth that have a lot more money than you do, but also Google favors them in pay-per-click advertising. When you bid against Macy's, you got to bid, a lot more than Macy's because you're not Macy's, right? So if you're just getting customers, for one-off purchases, that's not going to work very, very long. So, like Eric says, you've got to really establish some connection with people, and there are ways to do it. And actually, we want to leave some time for questions and discussion because I want to hear about some of the things that you folks are doing. And the last point I just want to make, and there's been so much talk about it, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, is mobile and how much consumers are just, picking up whatever device is handy, which is very often this, but sometimes it's a tablet, and sometimes it's a laptop, sometimes it's sitting at their office. A desktop PC, but whatever it is, they're indifferent to it, as you well know. So, if they love you on the PC, but then when they pick up their smartphone and you go to your site and they can't really see it because they only see like 1/8 of it, you're done. Mm-hmm. So everybody's got to think about that. And I know from our reporting that a lot of retailers in the last few years have started, M.dot sites that are, targeted for smartphones, a much smaller number just for tablets. Tablets pretty much can handle regular website. But, as we've heard a lot this week, the latest craze, you could call it, is responsive design, which is designing one site that will adapt to all the different devices. And there can be more devices. There's going to be TVs, tablets keep on changing sizes and so forth. So responsive is very young. I mean, there aren't a whole lot. I'd be interested. Does anybody here have a live responsive site? One. Oh, okay. So yeah, we'd like to hear from you. How's that going for you? Because it's sort of controversial, and it's more work to maintain, to build, to start with, but also each time you have to add a product or promotion, you got to think about how it's going to adapt to each of the screens. There's some performance questions. I mean, and this is, you know, it's just early days. I mean, I think the responsive approach, my personal opinion, will be the one that will become the norm. But I could be wrong about that. So anyway, but one way or the other, you got to address this question. So I'm going to stop there and we can throw it out to the audience.
So we had a bit of a discussion. How many people have a major site redesign on the roadmap for this year? Hands up. Okay, fair number. Keep them there if responsive web design is part of that plan. Okay. And how many of you have an active line in that plan that talks about how branding fits into that? Not as many hands.
One.
Oh, there's a couple.
Yeah.
Okay. And then after this presentation, is anybody going to go revise that by show of hands?
Mr. Fun Guy's got his
Fun
program
Guy is
together. I'm
on it.
telling you, he's got it going on. So.
All right.